The city of Melbourne has a vibrant energy like no other, and there is a lot to love about this city of lifestyle. It is not surprising that in 2014 it was named the world's most livable city for the 4th year running. This is due to its rich and diverse urban culture, including strong sense of multiculturalism, vibrant cafe culture, popular sporting events, and its prestigious art background. These key factors influence Melbourne's magnetism, which has sparked mass migration, causing an influx of population from interstate and international residents. By 2050, the population will have almost doubled, from 4.07 million people in 2010 to a forecasted 7.7 million people. This definite and immense flood of human population will contribute to urban sprawl and the vast expansion of developed areas within Melbourne. After constructing and administering a survey on current Melburnians' preferences of living and housing, we discovered that the most frequented age and gender of our participants was 21-year-old females. This is Sally. She is a 21-year-old female currently living in Melbourne in 2015. She represents the majority of participants' responses from our survey. By using Sally's preferences in Melbourne now, we have placed her in the year 2050 with the same ideas and values to see how realistic they are for her future living in Melbourne. 3 main factors that currently affect Sally's choices and preferences for living are affordability, quality of living, and services and facilities. These 3 factors will only be heightened in the future and have greater effect on her living circumstances. Overall, our results show that property prices in Melbourne have steadily risen over time. For Sally, the most important factors when choosing a home were firstly location, followed by cost. She would prefer to live in a detached house in the inner ring suburbs. As the population in Melbourne grows, the inner ring suburbs will become higher in density, whilst the property sizes shrink to accommodate the influx in population. This could affect Sally's choice in location, as housing size will become smaller, whilst prices will rise, affecting the size to cost ratio. Sally preferred to move closer to the CBD and downsize her home, rather than to move further out into a larger home, contradicting her own preference of living in a larger detached house. Moving closer to the CBD means a higher median price for property and generally less sizable homes, meaning Sally is willing to pay a higher price for a smaller space, if it is in her preferred area, sacrificing luxuries such as a detached house on a larger land. In 2050, Sally may be unable to achieve the current preferences she has in regards to living and affordability. She seems uninformed on how Melbourne has drastically changed since 2015. The presence of services and facilities, including supermarkets, recreational facilities, public transport and schools, are already at a very high level of accessibility within 5 kilometres of Sally's home, and will remain as important and present when choosing a house location in the future. It takes Sally 15 minutes to get to work by car. It can be assumed that when choosing a house location, she prioritises roads and infrastructure rather than public transport services. However, George, who is Sally's best friend, is a full-time student and it takes him 40 minutes to get to school by train. Because he is a student, he may have a lower income than Sally and be unable to afford to run a car. Therefore, services and facilities such as public transportation would be a high priority in his housing location choice. When asked, Sally and George prefer to live closest to work and school. This may be due to the daily accessibility to these places, opposed to social circles which are visited less frequently. Although Sally and George rank services and facilities the lowest, this could be due to less time spent at those facilities, but is still an important factor in choosing a house location. In 2015, Sally prefers to live in the inner ring suburbs, but in 2050 her preferences may change due to the rising density in this area, and therefore Sally may have to settle for her second choice, which is the middle ring suburbs, as they will have a lower density and larger homes. However, if she wants to live in the inner ring suburbs, she might have to sacrifice size for location. Interestingly enough, if only given the choice between outer ring suburbs and a rural community, she would prefer to live rurally. Though Sally wants to live in a detached house, it is unlikely as there will be limited amount of land with a higher population. Although her lowest preference of housing type is both apartments and units, this looks to be the most suitable outcome because she is likely to live with a smaller amount of people. Although the most suitable dwellings for the future of high-density living in Melbourne, it is not the most desired. Sally would prefer to live in a larger dwelling but may have to let go of this dream for practicality and cost in the growing population. So where does this leave Sally? If Sally was aware of all this information in 2015, perhaps she might have planned for the rising living costs to afford her future goals, so she doesn't have to downgrade her preferences in 2050. Concluding from our survey results, it is clear that majority of people are uninformed on these crucial facts and need to become more aware of these changes. This knowledge will not only assist future planning for individual Melburnians, but also possibly encourage them to be proactive and care for the future of Melbourne's greater cause. We have already established that there is an existing proposal, Plan Melbourne Metropolitan Planning Strategy, that can assist Melbourne in directing its population growth whilst maintaining its urban culture. The community could be informed and educated on the changing future with Plan Melbourne introducing a well-publicised, interactive website or app that is also user-friendly. This design would inform Melburnians on how their future living circumstances may change and assist them in planning for their future whilst being easy to access and operate.